1320 WILS. And our last couple of segments together here. Mike Austin on your morning wake up. Launching the weekend. Not as nice as last weekend. Winter, you winter. All right. The temperature has kind of fluctuated, but now we're on a downward trend down to 41 right now. Blustery this weekend. Okay. Lobbyists in Michigan have reporting spending more than $485,000. This is on food and drink and such for officials. This is out of the 2025 record. Apparently this has to be, I don't know a lot about lobbying. I know what it is. A lot of people think lobbying started with the Ulysses S. Grant administration. Oh, no. The story goes that back then he would always have lunch or whatever at a certain hotel, and people who wanted to get his influence him would stop by and wait in the lobby. But this actually goes way back. Well, we have the right to petition in the Constitution, and that's kind of lobbying. Let's talk with Neil Thanedar. He's the CEO of the Michigan Campaign Finance Network. Joins us now. Neil, welcome to your morning wake up. Great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
How do we know there's $485,000 spent and on what it's spent? They have to report it, right?
So they only have to report if they spend over $79 in a given month on a given lawmaker. So there are smaller meals and bills that fall under that radar, but this is just the amount that we can track.
Okay. And this has been going on forever, like we said.
Yep.
Why is this, I guess the average person, the average voter maybe knows this goes on, but to what extent they don't. Is there a place they can go to find these numbers?
Yes, so we at MCFN.org, we are publishing these reports. There are other great organizations like Detroit News and Bridge Magazine that are doing this kind of work as well. And so I think the investigative journalists are really pushing these stories because it's not just about the cost of the meals and the drinks. It's about why you do that, right? They're not just giving out a free lunch, right? They are looking for something back. And in Lansing, that's often influence on that $80 billion plus state budget every year.
So the question was asked to me yesterday in talking about this. What's the difference between lobbying and bribery?
Well, lobbying is tracked, right? I think that's one key factor. I think there are potentially other ways where this dark money can get to politicians, right? And so this is in some ways just the tip of the iceberg, but it is also a very clear signal of which politicians are taking the most money. And then we can also track the money that they take and then follow to the earmarks and bills that they pass. And that's actually where you get the biggest issues, right? The true cost of these lobbying expenditures are not just that $500K in the meals. It's the way more expensive bills that are going to get passed, right? There might be $100 million earmark in that next bill that maybe only costs that lobbyist $1,000 in meals.
Oh, wow. Is lobbying relegated to free food and drink? I mean, what other ways do they lobby? Because it's always stuff, isn't it? Maybe a trip somewhere?
So it can also be direct political contributions. It can be contributions to PACs, right? So there can be direct or indirect political contributions. So those are also tracked. And then the other issue is this revolving door that you often see in politics, where after some of these politicians who are very friendly to big business, when they leave politics, all of a sudden you see them on the board of these companies. Maybe they were on the board before and after they were in politics. And so that's also where you see ways for that potentially millions of dollars to get to those politicians because of the work that they've done.
So who are the biggest lobbying? Because it's usually a group, right? It would be any number of groups. Again, it's totally legal. This is not like it's nefarious. This is legal, although there are some, as you called it, dark money, maybe in different ways. But who are the biggest groups in Michigan that are lobbying?
where you
Who does the
see
most,
a
I
lot
guess?
of road builders, right? So people who build roads are often lobbying the government because they want the budget to go up for spending on building and fixing roads, right? And so that could be potentially $1 to $2 billion a year in a state budget just going to fixing roads. And so the people who are lobbying, buying those deals, are often trying to influence where that $1 to $2 billion a year is going.
Okay. And really just about any industry has lobbying wing, do they not?
Yep, well, you hear that with, alcohol distributors have a lobby, and real estate agents have a lobby, and, all these, even if you go nationally, you'll see insurance companies have lobbies and all these different places. I think there are some, there are pro-environmental lobbies, and there are all these different places that are trying to influence each of these politicians. I think the place where it's just gotten extreme is in how much money and how many lobbyists are focused on each politician has basically gotten to a place where the vast majority of politicians are taking money from these lobbyists.
So if you run, you're a politician, and I know everybody wants me to get into, who's the biggest takers of lobbyists and that. But you know what? They all do. If you run for office and you get voted in and you are pure of heart, you are steadfast in your convictions. I'm talking to my constituents. I had lunch. I had a listening session. And then all of a sudden the sharks start to swirl, so to speak, as far as lobbyists go. That's got to be a tough thing to look past, as far as, hey, we'll donate $500,000 to your favorite charity, or whatever. More than, like you said, more than just food and drink. Nobody gets past that, do they?
It's tough. I think there are people who have independent wealth, and they're able to do that work more independently from there. I think people are now crowdfunding. Right? I talk about this in my book, Positive Politics. There's kind of these two established paths to get into politics. There's the parties, or there's making your own money somewhere else and then running. And I think there ought to be another way. And I think we're starting to find people who can either crowdfund, raise small amounts of money from thousands of people instead of raising large amounts of money from a few corporations. That, I think, is very promising. And I think the other thing that politicians just have to do is to be positive, is to just get work done, right? And focus on the action in politics, right? I think there is so much talk and so much focus on the money. And if the politicians themselves can focus on what did they get done, right? What actions, right? You have a constituency. There are direct constituent services that you can provide. There's money you can bring back to your district. There's specific things that can be built in your district. Right? All of those things, the focus on the action and the results, is what politicians can do to prove that they're above lobbying.
Is there any way that lobbying, maybe you just touched on that, I don't know, your book, though, Positive Politics, do you talk about lobbying? Is there any way that it becomes positive, that it turns to a positive thing? For me, just general walking around person.
Yep. So think tanks are lobbyists, right? People who are trying to influence the government through their ideas are lobbyists. And so there can be good lobbyists as well, right? Any individual could be a lobbyist. So you were talking about any individual can petition the government, right? We can all be these kind of individual think tanks. If we have an idea that we want our government to do, we can package that up. We can write about it. We can pick the issues. One big issue for me is campaign finance reform, and especially the Freedom of Information Act, making sure that it covers all state politicians in Michigan, right? Focusing on these specific issues and writing down, this is how we would get it done through the legislature. If they don't get it done this year, this is how we get it done through a ballot proposal in 2028. Actually writing down the ideas and pitching it to politicians and saying this is what we should do is an effective way for an individual to lobby their government, for them to impact what the government does. And I encourage everyone to do that. Just pick your favorite issue and start running.
Yeah. It's involvement. Again, lobbying is legal. But the amount, $485,000 on free food and drink for officials in 2025. That's in Michigan. That's the way that goes. Your book, Positive Politics, where do we find that?
Yep, so it's in all stores, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, online. I just recorded the audiobook, so that should be out by April. And yep, I've been really focused on this, getting people into politics through action and really focusing on what we can get done in results versus the debates and the anger and negativity.
Yeah. Would term limits help to kind of rein some of this in and make it a little more even keel?
It's one potential solution, but it's not perfect because in often cases there are some of the worst politicians are the ones who just come in. If there's a revolving door, sometimes the most corrupt or lobby-friendly politicians are actually the ones who are new. It's tough. I would really want us to focus on the work, right? Is like which politicians are actually getting the work done versus not. And that we have ways to track that. We have ways to see which politicians are bringing money to their district, who are getting the work done, passing bills. I think that has to be where we focus and where we push our politicians to go.
Yeah, it's a good point. Michigan Campaign Finance Network. Look them up on the web. You can find this report. And Neil Thanedar, your book, Positive Politics. Hey, can we get the book through your website too, or no?
Yes, it is. Yeah, so neilthanedar.com, positivepoliticsbook.com. You can get the book anywhere.
Yeah. It's great having you on. I want to do this again. And, hey, let's have some dinner sometime or something. I'll pick your brain and we'll talk shop over dinner. How about that?
Sounds good. We'll talk soon.
Of course, you're buying and you're lobbying me. So just saying that. Hey, by the way, space aliens, existence, yes or no?
I guess. I would assume there's somewhere, right?
Yeah.
But no direct information.
Thank you. See you, Neil. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Of course.
1320 WILS. I'm just saying. Lobbying is legal. It is. But this report is a little telling. And like he said, get involved. Yeah, that's good stuff. Groovy news. We'll throw the dart for Friday. Find out what kind of groovy story we're setting you loose on your weekend. Mike Austin, your morning wake up, 1320 WILS. We're coming right back.
WILS.